There are over 1,500 people on death row in the US. Many of them wait decades before the actual execution, and some never get to sit on the execution gurney. In 2023, two people who had scheduled executions died before they could reach the official dates written on their death warrants. Michael D. Webb. He was scheduled for execution on July 19th in the state of Ohio. In Goshen, Ohio, Webb shared a modest home with his wife Susan, two teenage daughters, Amy and Tammy, and two small sons, Charlie and Mikey. The smell of gasoline woke Tammy up in her basement bedroom early on November 21, 1990. Soon after, Webb entered Tammy's room and informed her that he had smelled gasoline and believed that someone had rigged the house. Tammy was immediately terrified. She hid under her blankets while Webb went upstairs without instructing her to leave the house. Webb was thrown from the hallway outside the master bedroom into the bathroom by an explosion that happened shortly after he went upstairs on the main floor of the house. Mikey was sleeping in his room across the hall, and Webb's wife and youngest kid were in the master bedroom at the time. As soon as they heard the explosion, Tammy and Amy successfully evacuated through the outer basement door. Webb broke out of the house through the bathroom window, cutting himself and hurting his hands in the process. The youngest child and wife of Webb were rescued by firefighters from the master bedroom. Mikey, who was only 3 years old, probably sought refuge under his bed to escape the fire when he passed away from smoke inhalation. Police looked into what started the fire. A plastic gas can from Webb's garage was found in the front foyer, and the fire chief also found a very clear pour pattern or trailer extending from the foyer to the bedrooms on the main level. From there, trailers led into both bedrooms, including one that went over Mikey's bed and along the room's back wall. In the basement, where Tammy's and Amy's bedrooms were located, there was also an unlit gasoline trailer. Physical proof established several connections between Webb and the fire. A 2-liter gasoline-filled soda bottle with Webb's prints on it was discovered downstairs. A plastic gas can from Webb's garage was discovered in the foyer, as well as partial bloody fingerprints of Webb on a matchbook outdoors that corresponded to the peculiar way Webb handled a matchbook when lighting matches. In addition, Webb had recently finished stealing $102,000 plus interest from his daughter's trust accounts, a crime that would be covered up by their deaths because he was their heir. In 1990, Webb started an extramarital relationship and told his mistress he intended to leave his wife so he could be with her. Webb was found guilty on 12 counts, including the aggravated murder of Mikey, by an Ohio jury. The jury recommended the death penalty following a hearing on mitigation, and the trial court concurred. Webb was the most evil person I have prosecuted and most deserving of the death penalty, said former assistant prosecutor Daniel Breyer. He had no conscience. According to Joe Allen Smith, a representative for the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, Webb passed away on May 2nd from a cardiac arrest at a hospital in Columbus. He was 73 years old. Webb was supposed to be executed in July 2023, although there was little chance that would ever happen. In line with his claim that lethal injection is no longer an option in Ohio, due to the continued scarcity of medications to execute prisoners, Governor Mike DeWine has put on hold a number of executions in recent years. On July 18, 2018, Ohio executed Robert Van Hook for the 1985 murder of David Self in Cincinnati. This was the state's most recent execution. Henry Skinner. He was scheduled for execution on September 13th in the state of Texas. He was found guilty in 1995 of killing Twila Busby, his girlfriend, and stabbing her 2 adult sons, Randy Busby and Elwin Keller, to death. The murders took place at 804 East Campbell Avenue in Pampa, Texas on December 31, 1993. Skinner admitted that he was present when the killings occurred and that he shared a residence with the victims, but he said that he was unconscious due to a near-fatal combination of alcohol and codeine at the time. In a letter that was published in April 2010, Skinner made a fresh argument that he was colorblind and unintentionally drank the dangerous concoction because he mistook the victim's fuchsia pink glass, which contained codeine, for his own baby blue glass. Just a few feet away from the couch where Skinner claims to have been dozing off is where Twyla Busby was slain in the living room. Skinner claimed that Elwyn Scooter Kaller, one of the fatally injured victims, awoke him off the couch following the murders. Kaller passed away on Twyla Busby's neighbor's porch. 4 blocks away, Skinner found Andrea Joyce Reed's house, and she let him inside. At first, Reed claimed that Skinner had threatened to have her arrested if she called the police. Later on, Reed walked back that assertion, claiming Skinner had never threatened her, only told her not to call the police. A few hours later, Skinner was apprehended after being discovered in the bedroom of Reed's house. He had bloodstains on his clothing when he was taken into custody that were DNA matched to 2 of the victims. Andrea Joyce Reed, who owned the home where Skinner was discovered by police several hours after the murders, served as the primary accusation witness. Following the trial, Reed renounced a number of key parts of her testimony. However, some of the new allegations were refuted by Reed's daughter's evidence, and the magistrate ultimately decided that Reed's recantation was not believable. Reed stated that she had lied during her evidence at the trial after being threatened with being named an accessory to capital murder, having her children taken away, and having her daughter summoned as a witness. Reed made several new allegations, including that Skinner had only warned her not to call anyone and had not threatened to kill her, as she had testified in court, and that she thought Skinner's statement that "I have kicked Twyla, she's dead," was a drunken fantasy like the other violent stories he told to explain how he was injured. If Skinner requested Reed not to phone anyone that night, he has never mentioned it. Nobody could call from the crime site because the phone cable was yanked out of the wall, according to Skinner. The prosecution's theory that Skinner had built up a resistance to alcohol and codeine that would have allowed him to function even under heavy doses was accepted by the jury despite the toxicology expert for the defense. Dr. Lowry testified that Skinner was too drunk to physically commit the murders based on the levels of alcohol and codeine in his blood. The doctor's testimony was undermined by Reed's initial statements. Lowry gave no testimony on the precise time that Skinner took the codeine. Although the timing of the codeine consumption has been questioned, prosecution witness Howard Mitchell said during the trial that Skinner was utterly comatose and laying on the living room couch 90 minutes before the crime. Several of Skinner's trial records were examined by Harold Calland, professor emeritus of toxicology and pharmacology at the University of Toronto. According to his analysis, Calland noted that "I wouldn't be surprised if the heavy drinker would be able to move about somewhat, but he would be very confused and badly impaired and would have difficulty standing or walking in a coordinated manner." Calland based his estimates on the premise that Skinner ingested the alcohol and codeine at about 9:30 the evening of the killings. Occupational therapist Joe Tarpley testified during the trial that he thought Skinner's right hand clutching power was only half normal at the time of the murders due to an injury sustained 6 months prior to the killings. According to Tarpley's testimony, Skinner lacked the power to choke Mrs. Busby so hard that her larynx and hyoid bone were broken. In the back bedroom, where Busby's sons were killed, Skinner's blood was discovered on various items and furniture in November 2012 after more DNA testing. Additionally, it discovered Skinner's DNA on the handle of a knife found on the front porch, along with the DNA of Kaller, one of the sons, and an unknown third person. Robert Donnell, an uncle, had threatened Twyla Busby just prior to the murders. Although Skinner and his legal team have voiced concerns, neither the DA nor the police ever considered Donnell to be a suspect. Donnell had a history of acting violently and had even tried to assay someone. Investigator for Skinner's appellate team Cliff Carpenter claimed to have spoken with Willie Mae Gardner, Donnell's widow, and Deborah Ellis, a neighbor who referred to Gardner as grandmother, despite the fact that the two were unrelated. Donnell died in an automobile accident when drunk driving on January 5, 1997. Carpenter claims Gardner informed him that Donnell arrived home very late the evening of the killings and that within a week of the crime, he had completely cleaned the truck's inside, cleaned its carpets, and repainted it even. At an evidentiary hearing in 2005, Ellis stated under cross-examination that she did not observe any blood in the truck and that Donnell was merely cleaning it. The Texas Department of Public Safety reported that Robert Donnell had no prior convictions, but according to Cliff Carpenter's affidavit, Donnell had a criminal history in Oklahoma from the 1950s for theft, embezzlement, and burglary, and had served 3 years in prison for car theft in 1989. Robert Donnell was imprisoned for 7 years starting on November 28, 1988, for one conviction of car theft, according to the state of Oklahoma. Grand theft and DUI are two other offenses that resulted in arrests in Oklahoma. Donnell was not charged with any assault-related offenses. There is also an affidavit from Ronald Campbell, a friend of Twyla Busby, who said that at 11 p.m. on the night of the killings, he attempted to make a collect call to Busby from the Gray County Jail where he was a prisoner. Campbell asserted that the oldest son picked up the phone but was unable to get Twyla Busby to respond. The boy, according to Campbell, sounded upset and scared. In addition, Campbell stated he could hear a one hell of a fight and an unidentified male speaking with a deep voice who wasn't Skinner. Campbell's claims, however, were not supported by phone records, hence his testimony was not admitted into evidence. In 2008, Skinner married Sandrine A. Georges while awaiting execution in Texas. Sandrine, who was a French national, began her work against the death penalty more than 30 years ago, long before she met Skinner. She has written to many prisoners on death row and she has taken part in various demonstrations against the death sentence. On February 16, 2023, Skinner passed away in Hospital Galveston in Galveston, Texas. He was 60 years old. His lawyers claimed that complications from the brain tumor removal surgery he underwent in December 2022 caused his death. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.